All right, good luck letting everyone in. Hey everyone, we'll just wait 1 more minute or so, let a few more people join, and then we'll aim to kick off as close to the hour as possible. But thanks everyone for joining us. Just a few housekeeping things. Where's everyone calling in from? I noticed a couple of Kiwis, but if just drop into the chat box in Zoom if just where you're calling in from, all the way from Sydney. Same here. You're in Sydney as well, right, John?
I'm in Melbourne.
You're in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, perfect. Well, on the hour, we'll get started now. Just confirm, John, you can see the screen all good?
I certainly can, Adam.
Yeah, perfect. So guys, we've got in the calendar about 45 minutes. Would love to wrap this up content-wise 30, a little bit over 30 minutes. And if there's any questions that arise throughout the webinar, please do just pop them in the chat box. We will try and save some time at the end, or if it makes sense, we'll try and weave in the answers as we're going through it. So the two speakers today, my name's Adam Ross. I'm one of the co-founders of a software company called CloudOlive. And the main problem area that we spotted, firstly, when I was working at an MSP, and then later spent nearly a decade at Autotask, one of the two main PSAs on the market. I felt it firsthand and then saw it hundreds and hundreds of times. It was very, very difficult to manage license fluctuations across all of the suppliers that an MSP resells. And the problem as subscription software became more and more the way everything was consumed, the problem just got worse. I genuinely joined Autotask back in 2010, 2011, because I thought, that problem we had at our MSP, Autotask, a single system, would solve everything. And it really, really didn't. So we spent nearly 5 years now actually building a way to stop MSPs from leaking revenue across any cloud supply that you resell. And I'll maybe just pop it over to yourself, John, and do a little introduction as well.
Thank you, Adam. First, I do want to extend my gratitude to Adam and the CloudOlive team for organising this webinar, and also to everyone who has taken time out of their busy schedule to actually join us today. As Adam mentioned, my name is John. I've been ESET's regional manager out of Melbourne for the past 7 years, focusing on supporting MSPs, initially helping transition resellers to MSPs, and now focusing to get MSPs to become MSSPs by emphasizing on endpoint detection and response solutions and threat intelligence services. I've been involved in the endpoint security industry for over 2 decades, and in the last 5 to 7 years, I've witnessed some positive initiatives to modernize cybersecurity standards, especially in Australia, which I'll be sharing some information today.
Yeah, perfect. And I guess one of the reasons why we got in touch with ESET and John to do a joint webinar is we noticed we had a number of joint partners, just naturally, like MSPs working with ESET that wanted to reconcile via CloudOlive. And one of the things that jump out, we work with over 150 different vendors, distributors, you name it. So we really see and understand when vendors understand and deliver data that's easy to use on a monthly basis for billing. And I shot a note to John because ESETs is as good as you can get. It's very structured, very simple, very easy to get your hands on at any time. So it was just a very natural, easy fit for what we do at CloudOlive. Hence the reason we got a few really nice joint wins together in terms of customers having good success. So important, what we're here today to go through is John's an expert and very deep in the security landscape, specifically in Australia, but also some of the moves and shakes that's happening around the globe. And in this webinar, we'll spend probably 10 minutes up front actually discussing what the back end of this decade is going to look like in terms of legislations that are getting debated, legislations that are moving through now. And from an MSP or MSSP, whatever you want to class yourselves as, it's really important to be at the forefront of this, having the conversations early with your clients, because the government's beginning to mandate a lot of these things. And just getting all your ducks in a row early will make a very smooth and seamless revenue generating transition as you go through it. Once we understand the landscape, what's happening, what's moving forward, we'll move very much into the CloudOlive piece of this in terms of responsibly automating as much of your billing with a real lens on cybersecurity, how you're going to price it, and how you can maximize the right value for yourselves in your own MSP to the customers that you're specifically working with. So I have a little infographic and a way of introducing us, just so you can understand what we obsess on day in and day out, the problems areas that we're looking at. So I mentioned there was a near decade of working at Auditor. So very much come from when PSAs are constructed and set up well, especially from a billing perspective, they're great systems. When they're not, people jump ship and then often have other problems and they're really clunky and hard to use. So the premise of CloudOlive is we sit at the front of these PSAs and then interact with any of the suppliers that you work with, and north of 150 that we work with now, but there's new ones coming on at any time. And would like to think that even the edge cases that you have at a client level, split billing, double billing, or group billing, anything like that, we've really taken our time to build the right capability in order for data to be presented. And all of that black magic that needs to happen that's in people's heads right now is just taken care of within the CloudOlive system and then injected into the relevant systems and or just tracked because there's reasons for discrepancies. So that's where we sit, and very, very closely looking at how MSPs build the packages, what they're buying, how they're reselling it. Like, we've spent so much time digging into that side of things, and we're keen to share some of those lessons with you. And we'll pass it over to yourself, John, and introduce ESET a little bit closer.
Thank you, Adam. Before we delve into the upcoming Cybersecurity Act to be introduced by the federal government this year, I'd like to briefly outline why MSPs prefer partnering with ESET. ESET is committed to a channel-focused approach, working closely with its partners to support your business objectives. As an ESET partner, not only do you get world-class cybersecurity solutions, but you can count on us on free local technical support, including access to pre- and post-sales engineers. We are here to help the deployment and configuration of your ESET products, maximizing your return on investment and ensuring seamless business continuity. ESET is a pioneer leader in the cybersecurity industry with over 30 years of experience. Among the major endpoint security vendors, ESET stands out as the only one that's privately held and financially independent company. This independence basically allows us to focus solely on security, advancing our technology, and serving the best interests of our partners without being influenced by shareholder demands. A third of our company is dedicated to research and development, and we invest over 70% of our profits back into developing top-tier prevention-first security solutions. Also, ESET is the largest cybersecurity by vendor in the European Union. If you can go to the next slide, Adam, please.
Okay.
The company was founded by university students who discovered the first malware in 1986. Since then, we've experienced significant growth. Despite the current trend of tech companies laying off staff, we are committed to investing further and plan to expand our company to approximately 3,000 employees by the end of the decade. Our headquarters is in Bratislava at the heart of Europe, where Slovakia is emerging as the Silicon Valley of the EU. In the APJ region, our office in Singapore has been operating since 2011, and our Sydney office was established in 2014. And we also have an office in Melbourne.
And just a quick one there, John, confirming local support engineers out of Sydney?
That is correct. Out of business hours, level 1, level 2 is done from our Sydney office. And that also includes the pre-sales engineers. And level 3 is managed out of our headquarters.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay. Today, I'm pleased to explore the proposed Cybersecurity Act and provide some insights into the mandatory reporting requirements for ransomware payments. Look, to understand the impact of the proposed Cybersecurity Act, it's important to note that these reforms are part of the Australian cybersecurity strategy unveiled by the federal government in November 2023. Known as the strategy, it outlines a roadmap of positioning Australia as the global leader in cybersecurity by 2030. The strategy is structured around 6 cyber shields, each providing an additional layer of protection against cyber threats, with a central focus on safeguarding Australian citizens and businesses. The strategy is designed to make cybersecurity a national initiative, emphasising the importance of enhancing our cyber resilience from within and protecting, more importantly, critical infrastructure. Australia's cybersecurity strategy aligns with recent international approaches, so we're sort of following the coattails of what's already been established. For example, the US National Cybersecurity Strategy was introduced in March 2023. The UK National Cyber Strategy was introduced in 2022, and the EU Cybersecurity Strategy for the Digital Decade was introduced in 2020. It is a very ambitious timeframe to actually achieve this target, but also a component here is international cooperation as a key element of the strategy itself, though it is likely to be influenced by international politics and alliances. If you can move to the next slide. The Australian government has allocated approximately $600 million to fund the strategy and committed an additional $2.3 billion to support existing related initiatives. This is managed by the ASD. These efforts will be implemented across 3 horizons from now until 2030. The action plan is divided, as mentioned, into 6 cyber shields, but within those there's 20 strategic initiatives, with 60 specific actions set to be implemented over the next 2 years, known as Horizon 1. In Horizon 1, legislative reform will take centre stage to address the gaps in current laws and to enhance the security of critical infrastructure legislation. Additionally, large companies are now considered to be the front line of defence. It's no longer sufficient for large organisations to manage their own cybersecurity risks alone. They will be required by legislation to minimise harm across the supply chains, thereby achieving security at a scale. In Horizon 2, the strategy emphasises the critical need to attract and retain cyber talent, and as well as to expand the cybersecurity workforce. And lastly, in Horizon 3, it involves strengthening government threat intelligence capabilities and incorporating an offensive strategy alongside traditional cyber defence methods. In my opinion, this is a worthwhile initiative. This could help Australia advance from the Essential 8 maturity model introduced by the ASD in 2017 to a comprehensive strategy that is internationally recognised, such as NIST or NIST2 cybersecurity frameworks.
And John,
you've been
in this world for a couple of decades, as you said it, and with ESET for 7 hours. What's your sense or feel for level up and maturity levels actually accelerating? Has it been pretty steady? Do you feel it's going to change?
That is correct, Adam. So the ASD introduced the Essential 8 maturity model mainly for its government businesses and then anyone that is associated by the supply chain. It is a strategy. It's not necessarily a framework. Therefore, there is no legal ramifications. So, for example, in the US, there is a carrot and a stick approach to falling in line with government regulation around cybersecurity. This will probably enter the pathway into such a cybersecurity framework. So it is a positive change. I was extremely happy when the ASD introduced the Essential 8 maturity model, because for the last 3 years, it has changed the language and also educated the general public and businesses of the importance of cybersecurity. But the biggest positive out of all this is that government is actually working in conjunction with business to set up the strategy, regulation reforms as well. So it's not just the government pushing this, it's a collaboration.
Yeah. I'll just move on to the next one.
Yep. Due to the time limitations of this webinar, I'll just focus on the 2 points of the upcoming cyber security legislation that will have the greatest impact on you and your customers. On point 1, there is a strong push for adopting international software and security standards, such as security by design and security by default practices, with the aim to shift the burden of setting up software security away from users and placing more responsibility on software developers. Recent examples that could be adopted in Australia include the European Cyber Resilience Act, which was introduced 2 years ago. This is a legal framework designed to protect consumers and businesses that purchase or use products with digital elements. Manufacturers are now required to provide digital security throughout the entire life cycle of the products. And the other big thing that's happened this year is the European Cybersecurity Scheme of Common Criteria. This now will standardize the ISO 15408 certification. Basically, it means that vendors will need to have their products independently evaluated and certified against recognized security standards, and providing buyers with a clear metric to assess the security features of their IT products. So that is a welcome change from the EU, and hopefully will be also adopted in Australia. On point 2, initially the federal government aimed to ban ransomware payments outright, but realized that Australia is not prepared for such a drastic measure. Instead, they've introduced mandatory no fault, no liability reporting of ransomware incidents. Why has this approach been taken by the federal government? If you can go to the next slide, Adam. Industry surveys, especially in Australia, show that 60% of Australian companies have experienced a ransomware attack, with more than 50% of businesses paying the ransom. Approximately 75% of those that have paid were able to recover their data, though they faced an average downtime of 5 days. For years, Australians have been quietly paying millions in ransom to criminals who have stolen or encrypted their data, resulting in an estimated cost of $1 billion to our economy. Yeah, wow. The worst part is that this money has landed up in the hands of criminal organisations, fueling a cycle of further attacks and positioning Australia among the top 10 countries targeted by ransomware. Because revealing details of ransomware attack can actually damage a business's reputation, most businesses choose not to disclose when they have been breached or if they've actually paid a ransom. Therefore, although there's been surveys, there is often limited information available regarding the frequency of attacks and the amount of ransom demanded and whether it was actually paid. So if we go to the next slide, please. To enhance our understanding of ransomware and decrease Australia's attractiveness as a target for cyber criminals, the federal government will introduce mandatory reporting for ransomware payments. Businesses with a turnover exceeding $3 million are subject already to the Privacy Act and its data breach reporting requirements that was actually introduced last year. And as a result, they're expected to integrate ransomware payment obligations into their incident response plans. Just be mindful, the Privacy Act does not cover all organisations, but this bill in regards to mandatory reporting will cover all businesses generating over $3 million in revenues. Fines are intended to ensure ransomware payments are actually reported. However, I think they might cause some businesses, particularly small business, that frequently make such payments to avoid reporting if they miss the 72-hour deadline. In my view, the effectiveness of mandatory reporting obligations will hinge on whether businesses themselves receive substantial assistance and support, and obviously the ease of the reporting process. While the government will be providing specific guidance to assist businesses about ransomware payments, I believe, and Adam actually did mention that at the beginning of the webinar today, it is important to start advising your customers to develop a risk-based approach to handling ransomware incidents when they actually occur. Next slide, thank you.
Just
yes.
If I've got my MSP hat on and I'm listening to this and I need to have a conversation with an end client's like, well, isn't this your job? aren't you meant to stop all these things? What sort of conversations and/or like would this be another another conversation to strengthen those clients who have not adopted the relevant security protocols and have been on the fence and they're more of a laggard into this? Like if you're an MSP actually looking at this information going, I need to sort of ingest and then share this information. Like, how would you recommend, or what would you expect there, how this would be incorporated?
So similar to the Essential 8 that is starting to spread across the supply chain and including insurance, it is becoming mandatory for businesses to become more cyber aware. But more importantly, even though if you have these measures in place as a managed service provider, incidents and breaches do occur. Nothing is cyber security resistant. You have to also take into consider the human element. MSPs are offering cybersecurity awareness training, either paid service. At ESET, we feel strongly that staff should be also educated. So we do have a free service about cybersecurity awareness, but it is important to have as part a contingency plan for any breaches that actually do occur, okay, or any natural disasters. So things need to be taken into consideration. It's worthwhile considering that you will be breached and what responses you will take once a breach actually occurs and who will be responsible to do what. If you don't do that and a breach does occur, then you're basically peddling and you're wasting time to actually remediate that vulnerability. Because if you have been breached, it's most likely that the criminal has been in your network for a long period of time. And highlighting that, Adam, cyber criminals have moved away from targeting individuals and have started targeting in the last 2 years managed service providers, because if they can break in to a managed service provider, they can move laterally and start encrypting their clients with ransomware attacks.
Yeah.
Saying that, that's great that you mentioned that question. If you're an existing ESET customer, I do highly recommend scheduling a free ESET health check every 6 to 12 months to support your business and your customers. As an ESET engineer, will evaluate your ESET Protect platform to ensure each product is set up effectively and tailored, more importantly, to your business needs to avoid ransomware incidents and any breaches as well. To arrange a free ESET health check, please reach out to ESET or your account manager.
Yeah, there's a QR code. There's also a couple of QR codes at the very end of this with some other offers as well. So if you miss it now, we will have that up very, very shortly as well.
This is, if you are not an ESET customer, my second recommendation is to use endpoint security solutions that effectively prevent ransomware attacks. For example, ESET's standard endpoint security solution actually includes Ransomware Shield, which uses behavior-based detection to monitor suspicious file modifications, typically of ransomware. If you are an ESET customer and you're using ESET Protect Advanced subscription or higher, you have access to ESET LiveGuard Advanced, though it does need to be enabled. You can scan the QR code for a video tutorial or schedule an ESET health check for further assistance and enablement of that feature. ESET LiveGuard Advanced enhances protection by analyzing files in secure, isolated environment to detect and mitigate new threats and ransomware. It is important. A lot of businesses still don't have a high standard of endpoint security, but it is moving beyond endpoint security to detection and response, and that's another subject altogether. But if we can move to the next slide, that would be great. This is lastly, as mentioned, businesses with a turnover exceeding $3 million are now subject to the Privacy Act and its data breach reporting requirements. This is a wonderful opportunity for managed service providers to start discussing data loss prevention software with your customers. Basically, DLP solutions detect and prevent potential data breaches or data exfiltration by monitoring, detecting, and blocking sensitive data while in use, in motion, or at rest. Via ESET Technology Alliance, we offer Safetica, a leading provider of data loss prevention solutions that integrate seamlessly with ESET. Please feel free to contact ESET or myself to arrange a demo. But we are getting a lot of inquiries coming through for DLP, and it doesn't matter in regards to the size of the business. It could be 5 staff or 6 staff. It's really driven by the actual revenue turnover. So it's a great way to get additional business to come through. Thank you kindly for your time.
Thanks for that. So we'll move into a couple of points here of what does best of breed look like? As I mentioned, we work with hundreds of MSPs and from a very, very deep lens see setups, like the invoices to go out to clients, and some of the lessons that we can distill down into that when we work with a new partner and we sync across their relevant PSA and look at all the recurring items, we can generally understand pretty quickly if it's going to be an easy and smooth implementation, or if that finance admin team has headaches every single time month-end billing comes around. So a couple of the concepts to think about is, in the top two ones, recognizing what headache or problem your MSP currently has. It's really, really, really important to work out, rather than bucket everything to just month-end billing is hard. Like, work out, are we worried that what we're buying from suppliers, we're not on billing, where we've got revenue leakage, problem one, or completely separate problem altogether that needs to be isolated and solved in a separate manner? When we invoice our customers, did I actually query those invoices? And we spend a lot of time trying to understand why one unit count is different than another thing, and the customer's asking, and it's a $5 difference. It's a very, very different problem area to try and solve. And oftentimes you might even say, oh, we've kind of got both. If you do solve the one top left initially, it's going to have the quickest impact to the bottom line and cash flow and moving parts and all the rest of it. And then once you get this locked down, and we talk about source of truth all day, every day, the better you can understand the source of truth. From revenue leakage, it is the consumption report at a vendor. It is your invoice from a supplier. No ifs, no buts. That's a revenue leakage source of truth. Has to be. From an invoice, that is going to be what lines up with the money that's going to leave your bank. That has to be reconciled periodically, ideally every single month. The end client source of truth, be that around device, server, workstation, other, and or user, full user, light user, being able to articulate, like if you went through different departments in your business and asked people, what's our source of truth for user? What's our source of truth for device? And see the different answers that actually come back. It identifies that there's something that can be tidied up, because if the team can't easily articulate that, and oftentimes we're talking with business owners and admin teams that they know this is a problem, but they don't know how to go ahead and solve it. Having a single language that your sales team, your admin team, your management team, your client understands is so scalable once you get that. And once this is getting under control, or you got it under control, then you can start finessing these things, like charging your actual value. We know so many partners that make way more than RRP on Microsoft or other or Azure, the 5% that a lot of people get. We see people way higher than that. Once we're making the money, we're generating the right sort of value, actually reporting on all of these services. Like, everybody wants to understand how much money we're making on a individual service, vendor, client, contract type, bundle. And it's very, very, very hard to get that information, even though it shouldn't be. It's really hard to get that information out of the relevant reporting systems and PSAs. Solving the first two naturally falls down into just understanding exactly. So we always say, don't bite off too much initially. Let's work out the main problem, solve the other one if it is there, then start working through the relevant places. And the big impact of this is, we see time and time again, this stat, we could say from 2021 when we started CloudOlive, 5 to 7% of MSPs incorrectly bill the volume of line items that go through their business. It has been weirdly consistent. Small MSPs, medium MSPs, very large MSPs. Like even today, we had a client that was buying Microsoft from it was Dicker Data out in NZ, and it's not to pick on Dicker, it happens all the time, but they were buying a monthly NCE and selling it as a yearly. And of course, they were thinking, oh, we got 37 units, 37 we're selling, happy days. But they were losing 8.5% margin on it, but they thought they were making 16. And those types of little problems really mount up. This is where the immediate impact on cash flow can just be done just by solving top left right there. Right there, that was revenue leakage that they're experiencing on a single line item out of over 250 just on a single invoice. Happens all the time. Really, really hard to find. And what we want to try and identify very quickly is only 14% of your vendors will change on a monthly basis, roughly, right? Between around about 14 is our experience. Yet it takes admin teams, it takes people, it takes, if it's a smaller MSP, it's the founder having to do these things and spend their weekends to solve this problem. And like even still lay awake at night thinking, oh my God, I haven't on-billed that device, or have I actually put that on an invoice? And some of the revenue capture that we find, these are real world examples. A smaller MSP that they had $5,000 of cost across their relevant suppliers, that just when we plugged it all in, they immediately saw an uplift of 300 extra MRR that they weren't generating. And if you think about it, it's sunk cost. So it's pure and simple cash flow that now is in the business that was not in the business. And we've got so many different examples in a much larger MSP, but it seems to travel at a very similar linear arc as MSP scale of what we typically find. And some really big ones, like we had a Kaseya device for just under $850 a month. They'd been working with that client for 8 months, just wasn't in their PSA, wasn't getting billed out. Finding those bits of information, if you're unsure, one of the things for all ESET partners here, I'll just touch on it here. Just spending your time on this webinar, we're more than happy to give you a full login of CloudOlive and access to reconcile ESET. Again, it's such a great fit between the ESET data set and how CloudOlive operates, that you can have ESET, reconcile ESET. It does need to go to Autotask or ConnectWise, but we'll do that completely free of charge. And you've got one vendor in our system that you can just leverage, okay? And this will help with any revenue leakage initially. So we're still in that top left quadrant. Moving into the next side is being able to see eventually all of the different vendors. Like ideally, you've got 0 underbilling, 0 overbilling, you sleep easy at night, you've got a bit of software sitting in between that's actually telling you where you've got billing risk or not, and it's perfect, right? The next slide of this is, if we stop revenue leakage, that's awesome. That's problem one. There's going to be immediate money, immediate ease of sleeping at nighttime, no doubt. The other part of that we learn is just because you've got, in this case, we've got 32 business premium, and in our world, we bundle these together, we group them. There's 2 problems that come with bundling. One is, have we actually deployed the service that's in the bundle? Problem one, like if it's a security bundle and you haven't actually deployed a service that somebody's paying for, that's on you, and that's a big problem to go and identify. It's hard to find that information because all the systems are, of course, so fragmented. That's one. And also from a billing perspective, if a client has 32 business premium, they expect to have 32 of this and that and all the rest of it, especially if you choose to break them out. So one of the things that we spend time looking at in trying to understand the best way to offer a way to do a quality control across the different elements that you resell. So generally speaking, a user group, and here we're going to show a device group. It's like our ESET should match our workstations, should, in theory. Let us know, CloudOlive, when it doesn't. Just flag is just, we just want to understand a quality control. And typically this takes a few minutes to set up at best. And we're able to link standalone services in your PSA together. And then just identify where there's some drift. And what we often find is that Microsoft and or the RMM is typically like from a process onboarding, offboarding, typically the best per MSP. And then other vendors and services lag behind for some reason, okay? So you can immediately, what we often see from a quality control standpoint is, hey, the primary is 32, but for this antivirus here, we're only billing 6. Is that a quality control when we're under protecting, or is it a revenue leakage issue? And it's up to the user of CloudOlive to then go, oh, do you know what? This is actually a one-off. I'm just going to let this one slide. I'm going to pass on it. Or actually, as an admin manager here or in the finance team, this equips me to go and speak to the sales team with really, really useful information to understand, hey, why are we only billing for 6 of this antivirus? And or going to the engineering department and going, hey, guys, why have we got 6 of this when we've got 32 of everything else? Can you dig in and work out and just let me know what it is? So the information that's now available to finance admin teams is super important, just to be able to articulate process gaps that are often living in different departments that is generally pretty hard to find. So we look at this as 3 different layers. Is one, QA your distributor every single month. Like we work with every single distributor under the sun, right? There's probably 25 different Microsoft layouts that we do, plus direct. It really doesn't matter. It's the same thing. We want to make sure what you're getting billed is accurately going through the door. And there's absolutely, you would have experienced it through NCE. There's so many gotchas and like renewals and price increases and moving parts. All of that should be bulletproof, and you should have total confidence every single month. And not many MSPs actually do. Onboarding and offboarding, QA your technicians. That's really where the quality control check comes in. Hey, A should match B. Let me know when it doesn't. Let me know when it's just drifting. I just want to log in and have a quick glance at that. And most importantly, I think, is bringing like our partners. We want to elevate before your customers get billed something and then ask questions. It's like giving you the data, giving you the chance to actually make a call, make a change prior to invoices even going out, just to anticipate, hey, we know that there's 11 of this thing in the vendor portal, but there's only 10 users. Go, let's just change it. We know this client's going to be a little bit finicky around it. When we're just blindly updating based on vendor counts, these are the sort of things that your customers will ask you a question, and it's a $4 cost, but it just sucks for everyone. It's much, much larger cost, medium and long term. And like we see this all the time. It's literally why we build a way to group standalone products and services in your PSA together, so they can sort of move and report against one another. And the idea here is like a double lens gives you 100% confidence. So from the vendor side, sure, revenue leakage. We want to track every single granular line, every subscription down to unit count, the margin you're making, your unit cost lining up between vendor and PSA. Perfect, complete data on that side. When we have that, now it's really just identifying, are there some process elements in our own business where we need to look at it. We need to sharpen our own onboarding, offboarding, and that's very much a quality control. And the two go hand in hand, absolutely hand in hand. You may choose to build exactly what's in the vendor portal. Great, that's a strategy. You may choose to go, actually, we're going to make this easy for our customers. We're going to make sure we're going to have certain level of primaries or like anchors in our groups, user and device. We're going to have very clear articulation of what is what, and we're going to take care of any differences ourselves and not have our customers actually ask. Totally doable. Both strategies, we say use both of them as you see fit, but you need the information. You need to be able to work through that. So just on this, actually, one of the massive things that is, like I talked about, when we sync a new PSA, we got a pretty good understanding how well that's been implemented. A big part of that is the naming conventions that are deployed on the services or in ConnectWise language or other products. Makes a massive difference. There's if anyone's interested, there's actually a blog that I wrote a while ago, and we updated it recently with NCE, and there's the naming conventions and how you can just take some steps towards it. Would strongly recommend having a read, looking at it. There's a construct that will mean you will never, ever have to re-engineer the way you've set up your PSA ever again, regardless of whatever the vendor does. Okay. Happy to share that with everyone. And
Adam, if you just go to the previous slide, Adam and I sort of connected probably mid last year. I knew of CloudOlive for a while. But when he did contact me, I was really excited because a lot of our MSPs that I'm dealing with have a lot of questions around vendor reconciliation. And it is a major issue that they spend a lot of money and can't really rectify. So either they're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix, to build your own based around systems that are currently developed that you're managing your licensing. So when I heard and Adam reached out, I was extremely excited to start offering CloudOlive to our ESET MSP partners, because it does come up regularly, this question, and CloudOlive has a tool available, obviously, if you have that PSA integration, to rectify your reconciliation, especially if you're dealing with multiple distributors as well. So it's not just vendors that you need to take into consideration, it's also the distributors. But yeah, I think it's a worthwhile offer to look at, especially if you're an ESET customer. and reach out to Adam.
Yeah, if you're an ESET partner, we're happy to do ESET completely for free, no catches. You've got access to CloudOlive for that vendor for good. we're happy with that. And that will also give you the automation around the groupings piece as well. That's included in that. And so aligning, just getting a different bird's eye view on all of your customers, contract services, what's fallen out of alignment. All of that is available within that option as well. So if anyone's interested in that, and of course, for the clients who are working with us already, like you fully know, I would hope that you've got any audit, any like get in touch with us, book in with us. You've got the health checks around the vendors you're working with. It's unlimited number of suppliers you can throw at us. I think everyone on the call would know that. And we've got a really, really exciting Microsoft integration that even some people on this call have actually already switched on. So there's a QR code there for CloudOlive and my email address at adam@CloudOlive. If you're interested, book in. Love to have a chat to see if we can assist in any shape or form. And then I suppose over to yourself, John, for the whatever's.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're an existing customer, or even if you're not, if you click on the QR code, it will just give you a form to fill out if you want to book a health check or review your current endpoint security strategy, especially if you're dealing with Microsoft as well. I prefer protecting that ecosystem, or you can always just reach out to me. Usually people go via LinkedIn, but feel free to use the email that's enclosed in the presentation.
Yeah, perfect. And there's a question that has come in. We've got 5 more minutes. We will stop at bang on the 45. But if there's any other questions, either for myself and or John, absolutely feel free to pop them in. But there's a question, John, around the actual deployment of ESET. How long would it take, and would you do all partners or like all end clients, in one go?
That really depends on the partner. So my advice is we will work with yourself and an engineer to give you the best advice on how to actually proceed. If you're talking about SharePoint deployment for Microsoft, it's quite easy. All you need is basically the SharePoint tenant. If you're looking at multiple clients, you can do a bulk install or individual, but it's best to work with a professional engineer based on what you're trying to achieve, and I will make recommendations accordingly. So we just don't give you the solution. We do help through the enablement component until you find your feet and you no longer require our help, if that is the case. But it is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, cool. And a question around direct. So if we've got a direct sync with Microsoft, how would CloudOlive actually assist with that? I'm guessing that's a direct sync that you're working with. That it really won't solve the revenue leakage from a distributor. You really, it's so important to take the invoice that you're getting from Ripe, Ingram, Paxate, Synex, you name it, and running that through and just lining it up. Like, you really should be doing that, CloudOlive or not. Like, it's so important. When we build our own integration with Microsoft, there's some key gaps that all integrations that go directly into Partner Center will face. Nobody's immune to that. But it doesn't, if you're a tier 2 and you are buying from a distributor, there's no information around unit cost, unit price. So it's paramount. And also if your clients are buying direct and also through you, they're all going to show, of course, in the Partner Center. Like, they're all common challenges that anyone feeds directly from Microsoft will face. The true source of truth needs to be your invoice from a distributor, especially because they make mistakes as well. Like, we've seen some wild, like, MSP wasn't billed for 5 months and then it just rocked up 5 months worth of billing. I won't name the distributor, but we've seen it a couple of times, but 5 months in one go. And CloudOlive's obviously saying that you're making a massive loss on this line item. And then we dug into it and it was just an error on the behalf of a very large distributor. So hopefully that answers the question.
I'd like to add, because we've got a lot of managed service providers today, as this call is really designed for them. I do suggest taking some time to actually look at the critical infrastructure reform, because there is a component there specifically for managed service providers. The reason why I didn't cover that today It's not very clear who it actually captures under the MSP. It's basically around the storage of data and process of data. So there will be some reform around there. So keep an eye out once it's passed through government, how it will impact your business. So that's clearly tailoring managed service providers. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll give everybody back 1 minute to the day, and we generally appreciate you taking the time to share the last 45 minutes with John and I. And John, I really appreciate you jumping on with us today. That was good.
Thank you, Colin, for the opportunity.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Cheers.